As you can see, I'm now back to good health, which I'm very pleased about, and thanks so much for your support and for your wonderful contributions, etc., and all the emails. I have been going through the emails, and I noticed that there seems to be a lot of sort of doom and gloom among the audience at the moment. And I can understand that because we do seem to be on a relentless treadmill at the moment of things being against us. As we know, fuel prices are high, and the councils seem to be sort of very ardent on the attack. And of course, corporate Britain seems to be being rolled out left, right, and centre. But I sort of got the impression that the fight was going out of people. I suppose sometimes when you are forced to take your foot off the pedal and you have to have a bit of time out, as I have with this illness that I had, which is now thankfully in the past, you kind of get time to sort of reflect and go, okay, yeah, let's get back to it. So the fire is back in my belly. But I know that people are under attack because I've seen that in the emails. I wanted to read a couple of those out to you just to give you sort of the reflection of what's going on in the world. In the meantime, I also want to say thank you very much for all those people who were interested in the none of the above. And perhaps there's a little bit of confusion about what I'm talking about regarding the none of the above. I'm still waiting to hear from the guy who wanted to get the petition going to have an official recognised thing on the ballot paper itself, but I'm not really talking about that. That my thoughts on that is not really that. We'll let it hang in the air and see if anybody wants to grab it. It may be another idea that one seeds and is just dead in the water at the end of the day, but sometimes it's just worth pushing these things a little bit to see if people go, oh, actually, maybe, could be, possibly, or maybe not. I'm old enough and I'm ugly enough to know when something isn't working. But let's just have a look. Anyway, in the meantime, let's have a look at a couple of the emails that have come in. So this one is, I've taken away all the identification of people. So this one is from a chap who says, Richard, we have a holiday home in Wales. I've worked 60-hour weeks to buy it 22 years ago. It was our one place we could go and relax and appreciate nature and the lovely countryside. We took our 3 children there from young, and they now go there with their children. But the Welsh Government have devastated our lives. Were you aware the Welsh Government gave the council the right to increase council tax to 300% for anyone with a holiday home? Last year they charged 100%, this year 150%. We are pensioners on a small pension like hundreds of others in Wales that own a second home, that have worked hard and gone without to enable themselves to have a holiday home. The Welsh don't care. If you can't afford it, they say just sell it. But no one wants to buy. The Welsh housing market is dead. Some people have lost their husband and wife and are absolutely desperate, not knowing how to pay so much. Most of the homes are remote, so no services are used. It's daylight robbery. They have no compassion, and even if some people are long-term ill and can't even visit their house. Oh, I see. Sorry, so they have no compassion, even if some people are long-term ill and can't even visit their house. Just in Gwynedd, I think there are 4,500 second homes alone. When we do go, we spend lots of money on local trades and attractions, etc., and so do our families. Now, I know that some people will sort of go, oh, and be a bit sniffy about that. Well, you're lucky to have a second home, of course. And I know, I don't have a second home, but unless you call it my van, of course, when I'm out touring around trying to do talks and things. But I absolutely get it. You know, if you saved up and you live somewhere and you've had to live near your workplace and you think, right, in retirement, we're going to have this one place where we can have something. And then, of course, there's no rule that you can't have a second home. And if you've worked hard and you've done that, and then you're at the mercy of the Welsh Government charging you more. Now, I don't know whether you live in Wales to begin with, or you live in England or Scotland or elsewhere and you're going into this second home. But it does seem a little out fair, especially if you're bringing in some money into the local environment, which is what everybody wants in these days. Rather it going to the big corporations, if it can go to the local environment, then that's great. Okay, so the council are just taking advantage, and it seems to me that they're taking advantage in every avenue that they can. I interviewed a chap only the other day who was talking about how people on benefits are being taken advantage and forced pretty much to get behind on their council tax, so that then they are taken to court and fined and more money is generated. Let's have a look at another email here. This is, hello Richard, I've fallen foul of my local environmental health department. I'm 72 and unable to walk. I'm housebound now for almost a year. I've been almost totally isolated since 2020, no longer in contact with those few friends I had before the problems became obvious. On November the 29th, my council's environmental health department showed up with a warrant, mob-handed, and entered my flat, finding me living in squalor. Apparently, I am a threat to environmental health. I'm unvaccinated. I smoke. I fast intermittently. I never get colds and flus, and I've had no heating here since 2005. I'm very concerned, especially about my belongings and where I can stay while they carry out the work. They've offered me a place in a care home. Now, you know, a care home are very often, I have to put this delicately, a one-way street. As we know, I had to put my father in a care home. He became, with his dementia, absolutely impossible for my sister and I to look after. Even though we were doing that 24/7, it became just too difficult for us because he was pretty much bedridden and needed a hoist and various other things. And as soon as he was in the care home, of course, he went downhill very quickly. So I can absolutely understand your concern. And of course, if you're bedridden, how are you supposed to look after the flat or whatever it is that you're in? I get that. That must be awful. And it can be very confusing if the council, I suppose, are trying to carry out what they feel is environmental health duties to look after the people in their borough. But if it's carried out in a manner that is confusing and time poor, so in other words, they're rushed, they're coming in and they look round and they're not happy with the way you live. You should be able to live however you damn well like to live. And it said there that you lived in squalor, which of course, you know, one man's squalor is another man's something else. I mean, it's difficult to make a judgment on that, of course, because it depends whether you're happy living in that or whether you want the work or whether you feel that they're going to take away some of your stuff. But again, I suppose what's happening in this environment at the moment, in the empoisoned environment, is that people are coming in making decisions that you feel powerless to be part of. And I think that's really what the correspondent was saying there. And this is just a sample of many of the emails that I get. This is why I keep trying to push back against many of the aspects of this corporate Britain, in which the powers that shouldn't be are trying to force their ideas and their standards upon what we want as living men and women in this world, on this land, of how we want to live. We're being all the time told that we have to live in a specific way. And of course, it's being backed up by the national narrative that's being driven by mainstream media and the government. One more email I want to read out in today's show here. It refers to the none of the above. Richard, so you're a voter. I didn't say that actually. Then you place yourself in their jurisdiction. What's more, you scream out, "Govern me." Really, the only way out of their jurisdiction is to govern yourself. Sui Juris is a nice place to start reading. Have you asked yourself, who am I? That's the most important question. Don't throw out the birth certificate with the bathwater. You do know there are two, right? I'm not saying it's you, but they are important to comprehend. Okay, thank you very much. I get a lot of emails like that. A lot of people will say, as soon as you start talking about anything to do with voting, there'll be those people who will say, no, we need to. Somebody actually suggested we need an actual party called None of the Above. I don't think that's a very good idea at all, because you're in their jurisdiction. And the concept of this None of the Above is not to be in any jurisdiction. As I said in yesterday's video, and sometimes people I don't think actually listen sometimes, and I don't mean to be mean, but the point of the video was to say, look, not everybody understands about the birth certificate. Not everybody understands who they are, that they are a nameless spirit, if you like, that lives in a flesh and blood body. They think of themselves as a name that their parents, or their mother and father, I ought to say, has given them, and then has had registered and is on the certificate of birth. And yes, I do know that there are 2 certificates, of course, but not everybody can understand that. I made a video the other day saying that we need to somehow try and unite all the sovereign people together so that we can really get a message out to the great public about what is going on, because there's so many people who are yet to awaken. Now, I think there are people who are aware that things are not right, like these 2 people who've earlier emailed me. They're clearly aware that there is a sense of injustice going on. And the point of the idea that I wanted to express with the None of the Above was not to form a party, not to demand it to be on the ballot paper. There is a chap, as I said, who that's what he wants, but that's not what I thought. I thought that actually, if people don't know about Agenda 21 or Agenda 30, they don't need to know about the depopulation. They don't need to know about the legal persona. They just need to be aware, as I feel that the majority of people are aware, that the cost of living is extremely high. The government seems to be anti-human. The policies don't seem to make sense. There is something wrong. Even though they perhaps lined up like so many others, or felt they had to take certain medical interventions, they still may not be able to join all the dots. But what I'm suggesting is that they may be grumpy with the current system, and that something like a movement of, we don't want them, we want something new, there's got to be a better way. That's really the process that I was trying to get at, is that by us promoting the concept of just none of the above, it's a message. It's a message to the government to say we're unhappy. It's not a protest. We're not demanding anything. We're not registering anything. We're just letting them know that actually we are looking for something different. We're not looking for them to change. We're not looking for the government to go, okay, we'll make things better. We're saying we don't want you at all. We can self-govern, like my last correspondent actually said. The true meaning of anarchy, that we can turn back to ourselves. We can take back responsibility ourselves. We don't need these governments. It seems to me that the governments of the world and the people who lean on them are the ones that are causing all the misery. They're causing the problem through the councils, through the bailiffs, through the police, through all the authoritarian organisations. They are causing misery through this corporate Britain, this corporation that is the UK, and that we need to say, actually, no. Now, the majority of the people, as I said before, have no concept of it's a corporate Britain. They don't understand that the government is a for-profit business, a corporate business. They don't understand that the Prime Minister's office is a corporation. They don't understand the council is a corporation. Most people still think that although it's all going wrong, that these people are trying to help them. But they know that this system in and of itself is just not working. They know that because the prices have gone up. We're intelligent, sophisticated, cultivated people. And yet somehow we're living in, and we've got the best technology. Everything is at the point of state of the art. And yet people are living in squalor. They're feeling low. The vibrations are down. They don't have any money. There is something clearly wrong. And this is, I'm saying, I know what the answer is. You know what the answer is. But the majority of people don't know that. They just feel it's wrong. So the none of the above concept is to say, we don't want that. We don't want because it's just not working. It's no point the politicians coming with their begging bowls at the time of the election and making promises. Oh, well, we'll do this and we'll prove that. As I've said previously in other videos, I've been around for 60 years and probably for 40 of those been voting. And I've seen how every time the politicians will say, we're going to improve education, we're going to improve and protect the borders, we're going to be strong on crime and the causes of crime, we're going to make sure that there's more pounds in the profit, we're going to lower taxes, we're going to invest in infrastructure and all of this, we're going to make sure that the NHS is the best we've seen it. And for 40 years, I can report back and say it's got worse and worse and worse. And I'm not the only one. I think most people will say that. So in other words, politicians are hopeless. Not only are they hopeless, they are actually working against us. If they were working for us, we would see improvement. But there are no improvements. It's bleeding obvious. The village idiot can now see this. It's so obvious that the parliamentary system, the representatives of MPs, is just not working. And so that's why none of the above, the system, the parliament, the representation, the two-tier system, none of them, not Conservatives, not Labour, not the Lib Dems, not Reform, not Reclaim, none of them, all of that system is redundant. It doesn't work. They've proved it. It's been an experiment, and we can say, thank you very much. It's been an interesting experiment, but it just doesn't work. It just does not work. The people of Biggleswick, the Allegory fictitious town that I've often talked to, who managed to turn their back on the local council by saying, look, you are not working for us with your cameras and surveillance and your LTNs and your 15-minute cities and your heavy-handed, mob-handed way of doing things, and the fact that you don't take any of our ideas and you impose ideas, so that they said, we're not paying the council tax to you, the council. We're going to have our own council of our own people who live in our own town, and who then stopped paying that council tax, paid for their own council, and improvements have happened. Now, I know it's an idea, it's a fictitious town, but it's allegory. The suggestion is that if we take back the control, if we say, and we are responsible for ourselves, we act honourably, and that we take responsibility for our towns and our villages, the places that we live, and we say, look, the top-down system is not working, you've proved it. The proof is there. The evidence has been collected. We've seen it. It's rubbish. It doesn't work, and we don't want it. None of the above. Thank you very much. That the concept of Biggleswick is that the people just get together and they say, we'll run our own place. Why not? It's our land. We live here. We are sovereign people. That's the concept. And day after day after day, I'll sit in my chair, I'll come in the studio, and I'll put these ideas out. And it does seem crazy that somehow people still can't get the idea that taking back the responsibility and not just whining and moaning and saying, oh, well, the council should do this for us, or the government should do that. Why should they? They don't do it. They're incompetent. They can't do it. We can do it. We can do it ourselves. So, yes, my health is back. The fire in the belly is back. But we've got to take onus of this. Otherwise, the government we've seen with the international health regulations amendments that are going on, they're just going to sell us down the river to the likes of the World Health Organization. We're not going to have that. Why should we stand for that? They'll endorse the bailiffs banging on the door saying, "Oh, you owe us this money, and if you don't pay now, we're going to take your goods away." Let's move away from that public sphere, move into the private, look after ourselves, take back control, say to them, we don't want you, we want none of the above. We don't want the likes of people causing hassle to people who can barely walk, or that they've got their second homes that they've saved and saved and saved, and they're trying to do the best they can, not only for them, but for their children and their children's children, and for the local economy. It just seems mad to me that we're putting up with this. It's time that we put our foot down and said collectively, unitedly, no thank you. We don't want any of you, because you people who assume the power are useless.